It's not that it was like a settling or anything like that. It just started to make sense, and so you never know what direction you'll go in, as long as it feels good and it feeds your soul. Follow it.
Welcome to the Pillars of Creation. I am your host, Mitchel Dane, and today I am joined by producer, recording engineer, and all-around musical maestro Scott Greene. With over 25 years' experience, Scott has worked with hundreds of artists in a variety of different genres. But in recent years, Scott has found success as a member of the award-winning Celtic rock group, Derina Harvey Band. And with over 100 million streams to date, Scott is more than just a hired gun. He functions as co-writer and co-producer, as well as mixing engineer for each of the band's 3 albums. So needless to say, he is a powerhouse of knowledge, and like any good producer, he's come prepared to share his point of view. All right, welcome, Scott. Thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, Mitchell. Thanks for having me.
So you've just gotten off of a tour with Derina Harvey Band, is that right?
Yeah. We did a little stint out east. We're actually heading out again right away. So just home for about 10 days. And then we head out again for the rest of the summer, and then a little chunk of the fall, and so we're pretty busy.
Is that all festival gigs this time of year?
A good chunk is festival.
I mean, that music is so great for those outdoor festivals.
It's a good vibe. Yeah, it's good energy. Yeah, for sure.
You've been with Derina Harvey Band, it seems like, for decades now. How long have you been in the group?
I think I joined. I want to say maybe 2011, maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. We started off very much as just sort of a pub band, doing it for fun. I mean, it's still fun, but it's a little different now. But
sure.
It was I was steady in the studio, as you know, during that time. It's probably around the time when we first met. There was this little gem of a place. I don't know if you'd ever been there, called the Atlantic Trap and Gill, down just off Wade Ave and Gateway.
I might have.
Yeah. It was a little pub, but it was sort of this like bastion for people from the East Coast who've moved out west.
Right. Yeah.
And we played there many weekends for those first number of years, and it's really where we became a band and found who we were and our sound, and I think met a lot of our people, and so I think that was around 2010 I started doing that, and so it's been a little while, but it doesn't feel that way because it's been a weird sort of exciting growth that's happened, and also like super organic. As I said, like we just started in the pub, and then it kind of got there was lineups, and then it was like, okay, well, maybe we should make a record. And
Look, so I remember seeing Derina Harvey play at a Sherlock Holmes pub downtown.
Absolutely.
And it's just hard to believe now because you guys are drawing such great crowds, and you've had such success, which is so great. But this was just a Saturday night, Derina Harvey acoustic guitar, and lit the place up.
Yeah, I mean, she's a great performer, great communicator, and I think just people feel that when she sings.
Yeah, you've also been a co-songwriter, co-producer on all of the albums, as well as doing the mixing. Is that right?
Yeah. So it's quite a collaboration when it comes to writing. I mean, it sort of has to start with Derina in terms of like what she wants to say. But musically, we all bring in ideas, and I definitely sort of take the reins when it comes to recording all that stuff and capturing the instruments, and looking at performances and things like that, and then the final mix.
But like in essence, it starts with Derina Harvey bringing a song to the group. Does she have to bring the foundation, or are you bringing in songs of your own? Like, how much of a collaboration is separate from what she brings, I guess, is the question.
I'd say for the most part, I mean, lyrically, it's all Derina pretty much, I mean, there might be a line here or there that we, can make suggestions
or something.
Yeah, but so she'll typically have an idea for what she wants to write about or sing about, and she'll have some lines and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. Musically, it sometimes can start with a progression that she'll bring to the group, that, you know, and a melody that she's singing certain lines over.
Mm-hmm.
Another time, other times, you know, I might have a sort of a realized musical idea that I'll bring to the group, or
Right.
somebody else. You know, the other members also are, you know, are pretty accomplished, and they have musical ideas that will sometimes, we call them bricks. And
Right.
you
Okay.
know,
Yeah. Building a
I've got a,
wall. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I've got a
Yeah.
brick, so we throw it in
Yeah.
there, kind of thing.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we kind of all sit around, but I would
Mm-hmm.
say for the most part, it'll start with sort of something that Derina wants to say, or a story she wants to tell, and then,
Right. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. I
we'll,
guess it's a lot of it is so story driven that I'm
it
sure
really
that.
is, yeah,
And so
yeah,
I guess the interesting part about that is that that must allow you to put on your producer hat a little and be separate from, or more objective when you are entering the studio, because you are blending a lot of different ideas, but you're also not the one that's presenting your baby necessarily to the group, right?
yeah,
So how do you draw that line between, as a co-songwriter, and you have your own musical vision, your own taste, and then the producer side that's looking at it as the forest, for the trees. How do
yeah.
you draw that line when you are in the band and you are also writing the music too?
Yeah, I would say, you know, that's probably one of the more difficult things to do. I sort of pride myself on the ability to be able to compartmentalize that a little bit,
Hmm.
because I certainly know the value of having different people involved in different stages of a production.
Hmm.
So I've sort of have a little bit of a protocol I follow that gives me time and space to be able to be objective with the things that we're doing. So, you know, we'll go into tracking, and it's very much how I work anyway. I'm always mixing, basically. Like,
Right.
I'm mixing right away, like right from the arrangement of the song,
Hmm.
sitting in the room. I'm thinking about our song as a mixer.
Hmm.
So so really, I mean, if your song is arranged well enough, the mix kind of starts to take place already.
Sure, sure.
Um, so I think about things like that. And then in terms of, you know, managing and picking performances, that's, you know, that's a whole other sort of compartment of my mind that
Hmm.
I'll sort of live in while we're tracking. And then once we finish tracking, like a song, or you know, full record, I'll need to take a little bit of time away,
Yeah.
um, just to sort of forget where the bodies are buried, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
uh,
That's so important.
yeah, it really is.
Hmm.
You know, and then I can come back to it with a fresh, you know, excitement,
Hmm.
and um, and kind of just try to look at it like, okay, I'm a different person now mixing this, and
Hmm.
I've sort of forgotten the editing or anything that had to happen along the way. Luckily, with that group, it's not a ton of editing. We really
Sure.
try to grab it in performance, and we play a
Right.
lot together
Right.
in the studio, so
Hmm.
it
Live off
has,
the floor, more or
yeah,
less.
a couple of players, like, for sure, drums and bass. We always
Right.
do.
Yeah, that's
Steve
standard.
and Ed, we always do, off the floor. And then yeah, there sometimes I'll couple of other players as well,
Hmm.
and try to get that sort of connection, that connective tissue throughout the song.
Hmm. Now, have you ever brought in a separate producer? Have
We
you ever
have
had
not, no.
another, no other Fox in the Henhouse kind of idea?
You know, I mean, it could happen, right?
Sure,
Like,
sure.
but
And that's not to
so,
say that you should. I'm just curious because
oh
it's
no,
you
I
guys
know.
have such a cohesive thing going. It's just like, do you bring someone in and potentially ruin that?
Well,
Right.
you know, it's hard to say what it would be like. I mean, I think in one way it would be an exciting thing to try, and
Hmm.
I'd say, you know, why not at some point. But we do have something that does kind of work, and
Hmm.
everybody's pretty comfortable in that, creative, sort of. You know, there's a lot of trust and everything that goes into
Hmm.
that, as you know,
Yeah.
and you know, not to say that somebody coming in would, you know, that trust wouldn't be there, but
Hmm.
it
It
would
may
take a
take some
while.
time. Yeah, to
Yeah,
to build it. Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Any artistic venture has an element of ego or vulnerability, and feelings, emotions are involved, of course.
yeah,
So when you bring someone in who's not familiar, or like someone else's, your comment to someone in the band that says, I'm not thinking that's so great, Well, they know where it's coming from. They know you're on the same side. They know that, there's not other crap going on that's muddying or, blurring the lines between their ego and the others, right?
Right, like yeah, assume positive intent when we're
Yes,
talking
positive
about this
intent.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
yeah,
important though, because
it
sometimes
is.
you're looking at someone who's fueling their own image or their own brand or whatever.
Yeah,
Like like that's the thing. What I was curious about from your perspective is you guys have been recording, going on a decade now of releases and to great
yeah,
success. And then you have potentially someone coming in and going, yeah, but I record it this way.
yeah,
I think about like Bob Rock and Metallica or whatever it was, where it was just
yeah.
like, no, you don't do that. Or I can't remember who did the one of the last Rush albums, but he completely removed all the reverb from Alex
Okay,
Lifeson's guitar and while he was
okay,
tracking. And just,
okay.
and now that could have been trying to add some edge or grit. And then it's like, yeah, then you think about Rage Against the Machine. The guy was throwing glass bottles at the wall to get everyone amped up. Now, those are all techniques for creating something, but that is a potentially very dangerous environment to put a band that's so tight.
Yeah,
Throw them into the fire with someone who wants to tip you guys over on your head. Now, have you ever tried to change things up to kind of get something new? Like, have you ever done anything like that as a co-producer to say, let's go record in your basement. Let's just see what happens.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
to speak to your point there about like, yeah, bringing someone in and really like creating that like sort of like a volatile situation to sort of get emotions
Mm-hmm.
and upping the ante for
Yeah.
people
Yes.
like I mean that's a really interesting idea, and there are definitely some stories where that happens. We haven't tried that yet. I mean
Mm-hmm.
maybe we'll get to that point
Right.
where
Yeah.
a stick of dynamite, we need that. I
Sure.
don't know,
Yeah. Yeah.
but we've definitely experimented with our process, and it did take a while to kind of find the process, and
Mm-hmm.
there's always volatility when you're doing that, and every record was a little bit different in the way that the very first album, it was very much Derina's vision.
Mm-hmm.
I think when we did that, actually, when we recorded that first album, um, technically, I was not fully a member in that group. I
Mm.
was still, obviously, you know, doing things with them and stuff like that. But so it was very much, I was playing the role of an engineer and obviously helping with production and that sort of thing. But the final call did end up, a little bit more with Derina and Steve, and then also there wasn't any traditional instruments on that record. It was guitar driven,
Okay. Sure.
fully, yeah. And that album also took a little bit longer to record. It was sort of, again, because it was Derina's project, kind of, we did it slowly over time.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the second record, we had added a player. We added a fiddle player in the second album, and we'd been playing a lot. At that point, we were kind of fully into it. Um, that record, we did a little bit more of, let's book the studio, like lock the studio for 2 weeks and just record day and night
Mm-hmm.
as much as we can. So it was done much quicker, but much more focused, I would say.
Mm.
Um, and that was recorded at Power Sound Studios, which
Oh yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then we got really busy after that one. Um, we did a few singles, which
Mm-hmm.
eventually would end up on the third record, so and then I built a little studio, and we did a lot of work in my studio then for those singles, and
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of cool to do that, to like just really focus in on one song at a time
Mm-hmm.
and play with production techniques. So uh, when we got into that sort of era of the band, I was playing around a lot more with production, different tones,
Mm-hmm.
trying to kind of push the envelope a little bit more in that genre. And of course writing more of our own music. The first record is all traditional music that
Yes. Right.
is arranged. So and then the second one did have an original on there, but the third one is much more original,
Mm-hmm.
and Yeah, and so that one was, so I guess each one of them were done a little bit differently, because the third one we did, I think, 3 or 4 different singles, which we did, focused on those by themselves. And then when it came time to record the rest of the songs that we've been working on through that time, then that was, we booked the studio. I think we booked it for like 3 weeks and kind of went all in and finished the record. But yeah, so I think each song had a little bit more attention on on this newest record, and a little bit more of me, maybe, of trying some different production techniques.
Yeah, trying to expand the horizons a little bit,
Yeah.
especially when there's a traditional aspect to a genre that
Yeah.
can be a bit of a difficult process, because you are in a way known for that style, and it's very specific.
Yeah, it's funny. Derina is sort of that buffer for and that encyclopedia for traditional music. I'm from that part of the world, but I did not grow up listening to traditional music.
Sure.
I was a rock guy, blues, metal. But what I've found is that it works, because I might throw something at the wall and it's maybe just a little bit too far for the genre, but we kind of, if you dial back, or maybe it's perfect for that specific situation. But I like kind of having a little bit of ignorance in the genre itself. Just it allows me to be a little bit more creative, to try things that maybe, culturally in that part of the country, that, oh, well, you don't do that. Like,
that actually kind of reminds me of something, because there is something to be said about the importance of, if you don't know it's wrong, you're willing to do it. You're willing to attempt something, if you don't have that knowledge in the back of your head that says, we don't do that here.
That's right. Well, exactly. And like, it's, oh, well, you don't make that move. Well, why not?
Why not? Yeah. Well, as a perfect example of why that mentality is important in all art is Orson Welles, Citizen Kane. He was talking about how when he went to direct that, there was so much innovation in that movie, and people were just like, how did you do this? Why did you do it? And he just said, well, I didn't know I couldn't or shouldn't have done it this way. I wanted to create a shot. I had an idea in my head, and so I came up with techniques.
What I'd like to know is, where did you get the confidence from to make a film with such...
Ignorance, sheer ignorance. There's no confidence to equal it. It's only when you know something about a profession, I think, that you're timid or careful.
How does ignorance show itself?
I thought you could do anything with a camera that the eye could do or the imagination could do. And if you come up from the bottom in the film business, you're taught all the things that the cameraman doesn't want to attempt, for fear he will be criticized for having failed.
Yes.
And in this case, I had a cameraman who didn't care if he was criticized if he failed, and I didn't know that there were things you couldn't do. So anything I could think up in my dreams, I attempted to photograph.
He wasn't trying to innovate. He was just ignorant.
Yeah.
And there is something really beautiful about that, because it tells you that there is no right and wrong when it comes to art, as long as you're inspired to do something, right?
Yeah, and I think that it's so easy to kind of get to worry about what's right or wrong, or what should be done, or what shouldn't be done, or so I mean, it's important to have accountability, but as you know, when you're first creating, like, just let it fly, throw stuff at the wall, don't dismiss something before you've tried it.
What's the worst that can happen? You don't end up doing it, but it could end up being the best thing you've ever done.
Yeah, and that's really something that I learned from getting to work with a couple of, a great producer, Arnold Lanny. He's done lots of amazing stuff, all the Our Lady Peace and Finger 11 and stuff. He really, I got to write a record with him for a different artist, Cammy Van Halst, and something I really took away from that experience is try it.
Yep.
try it. Like, go down that road a little bit, because you never know. And maybe it won't work for this idea or for this song, but maybe it's something that you can plug into something later, or maybe it could just turn into the coolest thing you've ever done.
Yeah.
But you were just kind of, okay, this doesn't seem right for the brand, or whatever. All those kind of things we start thinking about.
Yeah.
And so, and it's not, and another thing is, it's not a waste of time. That's the big thing. I run into this with artists all the time. It's like they're afraid to waste time on it, and I get that, because time is precious, but sometimes you have to waste a little bit of time. Waste time. You just have to try it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a reason it's called playing music, or
Right,
you
right.
know, like, in a sense, because it's like you got to play, you got to have some fun and just explore a bit,
Yep.
because if you're too rigid when it comes to that, there's no opportunity for the happy mistake that becomes the best thing you've ever done.
Yeah, well, exactly, and
So
that's
it's try
pre-production.
it is a perfect, put that on every wall, try it. What's the worst that can happen, right? It could
Yeah,
be great. Yeah. So on the flip side of this conversation, I mean, from a producer's point of view, you want to get that artist to try it, right?
yeah.
You want them to feel comfortable going down any road that they choose or go with. But where do you draw the line in terms of, like, if you want to get on the radio, you can't have this, that, and the other thing, or where do you draw that line when you're functioning and hired as a producer,
Right.
right? How do you draw that line between final product being something that's marketable and might actually help the artist?
Yeah. Well, I think the luxury that we have today is that we don't have to worry so much about the constraints of radio, and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, I mean, while if something is interesting to me, if we're talking about, like, say, pick one thing, like, that was sort of a constraint for radio play, like a song length of a
Mm-hmm.
song or something. Um, if something's interesting, and it's truly interesting for and the song is 5 minutes, I don't really shut it down. But again, I might be a little bit different from other producers, and it's not that I've really seen a ton of terrestrial radio success in anything I've done. Most of
Right.
it's been more online and streaming
Mm-hmm.
and that sort of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
where I think you have a little bit more leeway with that, but we're sort of in this time where anything goes a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and it's less about, okay, this, we have to put you in this box.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about, let's show people who you are, and there will be people that, if we do our job right, if we do a good enough job letting you shine, and showing you to the audience, and you're brave enough, because it takes a
Mm-hmm.
crazy amount of braveness and courage
Mm-hmm.
to really bare your soul. um, but if we do that right, if and my job is to make sure that I capture that,
Mm-hmm.
inspire that, and capture it, um, then there will be an audience for you.
Right.
And I
Mm-hmm.
know that's, it's probably a romantic notion, but it's kind of, in my experience, it's been true.
Mm-hmm.
If you do that, if you capture the essence, somebody will find it,
Yeah.
and will latch onto it.
Mm-hmm. It's like no artist is an island. There's always
Exactly.
going to be other people who have the same interests or will agree with you in your direction that you're going. You
Yeah,
know.
and I try not to put the cart before the horse and think about, like, commercial
Yeah.
viability or anything too
Mm-hmm.
much. Uh, you know, I'm sure there are producers out there who have that sort of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe less today, but there was a time when budgets were big, and
Mm-hmm.
much music, and things were huge. Like,
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of people were making a lot of money. Um, but that's kind of been stripped away a little bit, and
Mm-hmm.
for better or for worse, it's a
Yeah.
little bit more accessible to everybody now, to be able to create and put something out.
Mm-hmm.
But then also the gatekeepers of the past aren't really there anymore. So there is a lot more to sift through for a listener.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
got 10,000 songs being added daily on streaming. And so there's a lot to listen to. But there's so much more truth out there, I think.
It's like simultaneously the most exciting possible time to be an artist, while simultaneously the most frustrating.
Yeah, I get that.
Like because it's we just want to function as artists or as musicians, and we just want to play. And sometimes if you're just looking at it as recording an album and putting it out there, and that's great, and that is the reward, and that's fine. And it's like you said, there was a path to success at one point, and it was pretty straight. And it was, and not every car could get on that road, on that highway to success. But now there are no roads.
Yeah. It's the Wild West.
Everyone can take to the sky and go.
Yeah.
Now, we also don't know what the destination means anymore.
Yeah.
Right? And so I'm always at that place where I'm thinking, no, this is the best time ever to be an artist.
Yeah.
And then the part of me that wants that simple path, which simple is probably the wrong way to frame it, but just the defined path that says you get this, you go there, you do that.
Yeah.
Success.
Yeah.
It's not how it works.
No, there isn't.
And it probably didn't even work that way then. But that's how we can view it, through that lens of what is it now. It looked way simpler back then.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of a romantic notion that, an A&R guy would like walk down the street and like hear this new sound wafting out of a garage and then sign you. And I think that did not happen very often.
No. It probably happened twice.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Just play on every street corner. Someone will find you.
Yeah, I just think I agree with you that it can be a frustrating time, but I do overall I sort of have the same idea where I think it's a really exciting time to be an artist and to just be able to connect with an audience directly. And it is a lot of work to like find your audience and find your people, but if you just have, keep the faith and do what you do and make it searchable, release it. You don't know what can happen. And at the very least, at the very end of the day, if it doesn't work out well, you at least made something that you can be proud of.
Yeah. The attempt is as worthy as the goal itself, right?
100%.
It is so true. It seems that the only thing that's the same across all artists is consistency.
Right.
They kept doing it. They kept going, because the only difference between the person who succeeds and the person who fails is the continuing, right? The person who fails is the person who stops, right? Like it's like if you have air in your lungs and a beating heart, you can continue forward, right? You can keep pursuing your goals, which sometimes is easier said than done. But it is a reality. We have to remember that we have to keep trying, right? As artists.
Yeah. Keep creating, keep doing it. It is a little bit of a war of attrition in that way. If you continue to do it, like you said, you will get somewhere. You will, it may not be exactly what you thought. I can tell you, I never envisioned I'd be playing in a traditional Celtic rock band.
Yeah.
If you had asked me that at 16, 18 years old, I never would have thought that. I like I said, I was a rock guy, and I didn't dig that music. But and it's not that it was like a settling or anything like that. It just started to make sense, and so you never know what direction you'll go in, as long as it feels good and it feeds your soul. Follow it. Follow the path.
Definitely. And it's like we were saying too, it's the accessibility. There's less gatekeepers now, that home recording, right? Like you think for the longest time you had to book a studio.
Yeah.
And nowadays the technology in the last, say, 20, 30 years has just grown in leaps and bounds to such a incredible rate, to the point where yeah, like you can record a high quality record in your basement with a couple microphones and an interface.
You really can.
But at this point, because of that truth, it does make me think about what does it mean to be a producer or a mixing engineer in this world? Because,
Yeah.
it seems like it's harder and harder to convince someone to help you record them.
Yeah.
And because that's just because of the merit of the technology is there. But then outside of that, it's your perspective that people want. It's your ear,
Yeah.
What would you think of that?
Yeah, I think, I think you're bang on. I think having someone that gets you and understands you as an artist is huge. No matter how much experience they have as a producer, I mean that's obviously helpful. But somebody who gets what you want to convey, I think, is huge. And also, yeah, I mean, when we talked earlier about like compartmentalizing, me as in a band, recording it and making decisions in the production and stuff, it is easy to get too close to something like that.
Sure.
And and you're kind of stuck on an idea, and you feel it has to be this way, or else it's not right. And so having somebody to be able to, as a sounding board, to be able to bounce those ideas off of and say, maybe, what about if we tried this, or what about if we, peeled this back, or I think those sorts of things, that's when you're getting into the decimal points is where that's where the greatness is, right?
Yeah.
Like that,
Yeah.
it really is. And I think that's where a producer really comes to play. When it's not that 90% or 95% of the process. Yes, you can do that. Anybody can do that. But it's when you start getting into the finer details of arrangement and overall just like outlook too. How somebody else is interpreting the music that you're making, because there's no way to predict that when you're making the music yourself. So I do feel it's a bit invaluable. And then also, obviously engineer wise, there's a lot that you can do in the box now. I mean, I don't know, there are so many artists that, there's like so many different kick drum sounds out there now that you can just put together yourself, so maybe that sort of thing is a little bit more, making decisions rather than actually lining up where to put mics and stuff. But I still love doing that. I love miking up a real drum kit. Like that's one of my most favorite things to do. But
totally. Now, I'm sure you have worked with many, many artists, and eventually egos will clash.
Yep.
But one thing I find interesting in the creative world, the idea of who owns what within a creation.
Right.
Have you heard the recent podcast with Billy Corgan talking about Butch Vig?
No, I mean I've seen some clips of his podcast and stuff, but no, I never heard that story.
Curious about your perspective on it, because I found it really interesting.
I love it. Great.
We were very close to Butch. Butch bangs off to go do what became Nevermind. As I've told this story a few times, we're sitting with him on a Wisconsin lake on July 4th, whatever the year would have been. He says, "You want to hear the new Nirvana?" He's got a boombox. He presses it, and it's Teen Spirit. And, as the sun's going down on a beautiful Wisconsin summer day, and I had two reactions. First of all, I was like, oh, he ripped off Boston, More Than a Feeling, interesting. And then when the song kicked in, I looked at Butch and I said, "You ripped off my guitar sound, motherfucker." And he kind of was like, "I guess I did." Because everything that he took into that was stuff I taught him. Butch didn't need me to teach him how to mic up a cabinet, but the way I would layer guitars, Butch was like, "Oh, I'll take that." So now, Nirvana's on the radio every 18 seconds. And of course, every time I hear the guitar, I'm like, "Oh, there's my guitar sound."
Interesting, hey?
Yeah.
You have to listen to someone talking that way, and bitterness aside, it does raise a good question, because he's talking about techniques.
Yep.
Right? And he's because he even admits Butch didn't need him to learn how to mic a cabinet, but it was how I layered the guitars. It was how I did this. And it just brings up a good point when it comes to there's a fine line between inspiration and plagiarism in that,
Yeah.
and he, I mean, his statement is that, yeah, he ripped me off. That's my sound. I I've listened. I've really enjoyed Smashing Pumpkins. But Nevermind is one of my favorite albums. But I wouldn't listen to those two albums and go, Kurt is using Billy's sound or his, like I just wouldn't.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have occurred to me to now. They have great guitar sounds in both those albums. So like that does ring true. But I wouldn't have gone there because there's the context.
Yeah, it's interesting. That was surprising. I had not
Right?
seen that interview, like at this point, why would you talk about that
Yeah.
even? I guess I mean they're searching for things to talk about for content online, but you know
Mm-hmm.
what it's like when it comes to guitar tones and that sort of thing. It's like how can you really claim that that's your specifically? And I'm sure, like, yeah, Butch
Yeah.
probably did a lot of work with Billy Corgan, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they probably created some of those things together, and of course Butch is going to take that into his next project.
Yeah.
um that's just natural, I think.
Yeah.
If you hit on something that you really like, and it's a technique or it's a way of editing something or a way of layering something,
Mm-hmm.
um I mean, you're going to want to take that onto your next
Yeah.
venture.
Well, it's
um
like what came to my mind was it's like an artist who creates a brush stroke technique, right? And
right.
he goes, it's about flicking the wrist at the end, right? And he does this, and that's a very new way of doing it. And someone else uses that technique, but they're drawing a different picture. So is it ripped off, or is it a technique and that
Yeah.
there is that question comes up when it comes to this kind of artistic credit that goes on.
Hmm.
And I don't think that does a lot for Billy Corgan.
I really don't
I
think so
think
either.
he comes off as being a little bit bitter, and he is good enough. He doesn't need to be doing that.
I know. I know.
um
That's why it's very surprising that he would say that, because yeah, I mean, I'm a big Billy Corgan fan. I love the
mhm.
Smashing Pumpkins. I love lots of things that he's done, a lot of the music he's made. But yeah, it seems a little bit maybe petty to
Yeah.
discuss an album that's, I don't know how many, like 30 years, more than 30 years old,
Yeah.
and to say that, oh, you ripped off, the producer ripped off my guitar tone. It's like, I don't even know. I don't
Mhm.
even know. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. As
Like,
a producer, do you look at it as, I'm here to serve this song? I'm not here to pinch pennies and get points on a royalty for a final note that I added to the song. Like, as I think about like Mike Love from the Beach Boys, he came up
right.
with that final line. Was it? Wouldn't it be nice? He's like, "Goodbye,
Yeah.
my baby, sleep tight,
Hmm.
my baby," and he's like, "Yeah, I'm a half songwriter on that." Like, and you go, you ad libbed a part at the end of the song, and
Yeah.
now you believe you wrote that song. Now, I really like that outro,
Yeah.
No, I don't like Mike Love at all. No.
but
Yeah. I mean, there is merit to that.
mhm,
I don't love. I think the happiest people, the happiest artists, the bands that stay together the longest,
mhm,
all have a little bit of an understanding that we're all in this together.
yeah,
And I think when you look at, say, like, a big pop artist, yeah, you might have a dozen writers on it. So it makes sense to me where to break it down into, okay, well, I've contributed this line and
sure,
he contributed this chord and
mhm,
things like that. I guess in some ways it makes sense to kind of piecemeal it out that way. But when I'm working with somebody, it's usually, I mean, if I take any publishing credit for songwriting, it's usually, um, we just discuss it very early on,
mhm.
and
Get it out of the way.
um, get it out. Yeah, and honestly, like, with a lot of the projects that I'm full time in. Yeah, it's pretty equal across the board. It's like
Yeah.
everybody's pulling on the same rope, and
Mhm.
there's a lot of examples, I think, where that's really been of benefit to bands,
Yes. Yeah.
and
I agree.
artists who seem just happier because
Mhm.
you're not bickering about that sort of thing.
Well, equal investment and equal outcome like you said, everyone then is pulling on the rope together because it's a rising tide raises all ships. There's a certain level of, if we're in this together, like you said, then we're in this together. I've heard of bands going to, there's one band in particular, I won't name it, that I had gone to Nashville, recorded their album. It was debut album. They had gotten a record deal, and they had a producer come in, and they recorded the album. It went really well. Then the royalty conversation came up, and the singer says, well, I write the lyrics, I write the song. And they go, well, you didn't write. Well, I'm writing the chord progressions here, and so the song is really the song of the melody and the chord progressions, and then the other person saying, well, I write the rhythm, and then the producer comes in and says, guys, I wrote the song because you came in with crap and I arranged it into so, right. And the band broke up. They didn't even make it past the recording of the album because they couldn't get over that credit.
And I really think that's a really sad situation.
It is.
That's something that I hate when I hear stories like that, and you do hear them from time to time. And I think best advice that I could give to a younger artists who are starting out or starting in a band or something is, it's really easy to make those decisions when there's nothing.
Yes.
When there's no money coming in. Make those decisions early, make them then, and just decide, okay, well, going forward, even though we're not making any money right now, going forward, and it doesn't have to be equal. It can be, this person gets a double, twice as much as whatever it makes sense in the workflow of the collaboration, because it's not equal. It's it's not like everybody gets an equal say. I used to play in a band with a guy that said, a band's not a democracy, and
right,
it's not really. There has to be somebody like kind of
taking the reins.
Sort of, yeah. It has kind of final say, at least in some aspects. But figure that stuff out early when there's nothing to fight about.
Yes,
and then moving forward, then you don't have to have that conversation. And the last thing you want to do is create an environment where somebody feels like they're holding something back.
Yeah,
creatively, like I'm not going to throw out this brick.
This one's going in my house.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like you want an environment where everybody is feeling supported and comfortable with giving their everything to this.
Yeah.
And not holding anything back, because that happens a lot too. It's like, well, I don't know. It's not really, I'm only getting so many % on this. Like I'm going to tuck this little bad boy back in my pocket. And
well, I mean, it's funny. Billy Corgan brings up Nevermind and Nirvana. I think about like the complete opposite of that mentality is Steve Albini on In Utero, because he didn't take points. He didn't take a royalty on that. He came in and he said, "This is my fee," and he says it's like, I'm a plumber. They're the artist. I come in and I make it sound good, which he's not doing himself credit like at all, because he had a distinct influence on that album. But his work ethic and his mentality was, pay me to unplug the sink. I unplugged it, and then enjoy the flow, right? Like enjoy it, the working product after it. He's satisfied with what he's doing. You're satisfied with and this is potentially millions of dollars on the table, right?
Yeah.
So like I really admire that mentality of just he made a decision, an artistic decision in his mind, which is that he was just trying to allow their vision to come to fruition.
Yeah.
And as a producer and engineer on that album, which is a legendary album, he looked at it as that my function as a producer engineer was to bring their vision to life.
Yeah.
Once that was finished, it was their vision. That's a really interesting perspective, especially when you think about, like you said, it's easy to decide things when there's nothing.
Yeah, and standing by that, and I mean, yeah, that's you're right. That's the total other end of the spectrum, right? And think about. I don't know if a lot of songwriting decisions got made in that, or if they brought in a lot of songs to him. I'm sure, like you said, he put his mark on a lot of those songs on that record. But yeah, that doesn't always necessarily need to translate into actual like publishing points on a songwriting credit or whatever, Yeah, I don't always don't feel that either. I think, you know, being just I don't know, being straight ahead and honest. It's always the best way to go. And don't, you know, kind of don't bitch about it after either. It's like,
I mean, it's at some point you need to just stand behind your decision,
yeah,
or let the truth come out, because it's like there is a reality where people are having a conversation, perhaps on a podcast, and they're sitting here talking about how, did you know that Butch Vig used a lot of Billy Corgan's techniques to record that the Nevermind album? Wow, that's amazing. Now that you say that, I can hear it. Wow, Billy Corgan is so influential. One of the funniest things about that video that I showed is the comment section, because
oh yeah,
man, does he ever get ripped? It's just like, you know, it's the classic case of, you know, Beethoven really credits his piano sound to Billy Corgan's influence. Like, you can't look back and can start taking credit, you know, like it may be true. It may be true. It just doesn't matter. You can't do that. Let your own work stand.
Yeah, yeah, and if you start breaking down all the different times in history where somebody kind of borrowed something, you know, especially we're not even talking about a guitar part we're talking about a tone.
Yeah,
it's like you can't copyright a tone. Like it's so. Yeah, you know, the more I think about it now, you know, kind of letting that clip sink in, I think it's incredibly petty. You know, to talk about that.
Oh yeah, it's like saying I own that position of the mic. Like, that's
Yeah,
where when that mic goes here, that's mine. Doesn't matter what guitar it is. Doesn't matter what amp it is. Doesn't matter what song they're playing.
Well, what
own
angle?
it.
What angle do you
what
have
angles?
on that? That's a Scott Greene angle.
I'm getting royalties. Royalties. You know, you just think like, I don't know. Like, I was blown away when I saw that, because I just could not see. You wish that you were Billy Corgan's friend in the corner going,
what are you doing?
You know, because it's just like, this is going on. People will talk about this, and not the way that you want it to go.
Yeah, it doesn't come off. That definitely doesn't come off well.
I thought it was interesting because I just heard it this week, and I thought, I'm talking to Scott this week. I'll see what he's got to say, because here's a producer that I just don't think is going to be talking about albums 15 years ago. And saying that the second album they did without me, that's mine too, because I showed them how to plug a guitar in. Like, I just
Well, yeah. What happened to, like, you know, passing on, you know, mentorship and that sort of idea? That's what all of that was built on. That, I mean, the way the great, you know, I mean, we don't have that so much anymore now in the recording world, where you know, you get a job sweeping the floor in your local studio, and then, you know, maybe you need to, okay, we need you in on a session, coil a few cables, or now all of a sudden the next day you're placing the mic and you're being shown the ropes by somebody, you know, that sort of mentorship situation. We don't see that anymore. That's part of the I guess that's a consequence of the way the industry has gone, where big studios have closed. A lot of big studios have closed. We don't quite have that passing on of knowledge anymore. I mean, we have the internet, which is, you know, everything's on there. You know, so I think, I mean, to try and take credit for a tone or a sound, you know, when I think about, and I would think, you know, he's been around. He was in that era of when that was still a thing. You know, people still shared information and showed you how to do something, and then you did it, and then of course that's part of your acumen in what you're doing. So it's I don't know what to make of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you'll definitely chew on that for a couple of days, because I know I did.
Yeah.
Because it's just an amazing statement to make. But you bring up the concept of mentorship, and, you know, and by extension, apprenticeship and things like that. And, you know, you have good reason to have something to say on the matter, because, you know, you are a teacher, or at the very least you were, because I know that you have taught many students, myself included, the arts and the techniques of recording and production. Are you still doing that these days? Are you still taking part in any sort of classes or teaching?
You know, not so much. I'll do private lessons. I do, a number of those throughout the year when they pop up. If somebody wants to do a little boot camp in something or a refresher, I'll go to their place or help them get their space set up. I do a fair amount of that.
Sure.
But
so that's something that people can reach out to you for? Or is it more
yeah,
like,
absolutely.
okay, cool.
Yeah, they can definitely reach out, and I'm happy to help them sort of, give them some suggestions for their space or what gear they might need or whatever, consultations,
right.
and then some private lessons for sure, but nothing structured like we used to have back in the day, and
sure.
Tried to create that created that school, and it worked for a number of years, and we were doing that sort of internship, trying to get people in and building up hours and that sort of thing, and but it's just a difficult thing to the way of the the way of the industry and the way of the world. It just it was a difficult thing to maintain.
Unfortunately, like you said, it's just not in the cards for a lot of these studios to operate that way. But Scott Greene is someone that could potentially help any listener out there that's curious about it. At the very least, contacting him about it might be a good way to start the conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, and just speaking of which, where can people find you if they're even looking to inquire about mixing or recording, producing, that sort of thing?
Yeah, just probably the best place is my Instagram right now. Just Scott Greene Music on Instagram, or yeah, I'm not too hard to find. I'm around.
And speaking of mixing, you are also a mixologist of sorts. You are you have a great interest in the artisan cocktail. Yeah. And occasionally you will post videos on your Scott Greene Music page, as well as the Cocktails at Home page, which was something you had done during the pandemic for a brief time. Can you talk to me about just your passion for, like fine whiskeys and cigars and things like that?
Yeah, for sure. I'd always been interested in it. And but yeah, I guess like many people during the pandemic, I was, kind of searching for things to do, and not to say that you should have been drinking a lot of alcohol. Sure. I'm sure people did, but it what I learned about myself through that time, because there were no gigs, and that's essentially what I do most of the time now, is I'm on the road playing. And so there were no gigs, and we didn't know when that would happen again. So I I found that I was like, okay, well, we can take a break. We were really busy before that. I'll just I'll take a step back. I'll take a break, take stock, do the thing. But what I found is that I really needed to output something creatively.
Yes.
I
know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I didn't need to be doing all this work to create these cocktail videos, I did an online course, production course, and did that for a week, and it was a lot of work to do all that. I didn't need to, but I guess I did need to, because I just had to output something creatively. So yeah, with the cocktails, it was something that I'd always been interested in, and whiskey and that sort of thing. And so I just kind of did a little bit more of a deep dive into the history and the actual craftsmanship that goes into making, like not to say just a cocktail, but like a single malt whiskey, or the time and patience, and something sitting in a barrel for 18 years, right. and just that whole idea of just the finer essence of things. It just really explored it a lot then. And but when it comes to cocktails, what really kind of I started to see a through line with those in music and arrangements.
Yes,
and
it does seem like a perfect metaphor for your outlook on life.
It kind of does. It's like just finding the right balance, and like I said earlier, the balance isn't equal parts of anything. A balance, if you make a cocktail, it's 2 ounces of a spirit, and it's a half ounce of a sugar, and if it was 2 ounces of that, if everything was equal, then it would just taste gross.
So add a cup of bitters. It's like, whoa, I don't think so.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So it's like looking at a collaboration with your creative team that way, or looking at a song arrangement that way, it all kind of tracks and it all makes sense all down the line when you look at that, finding a balance, and then the sum of those parts being greater than each one of the individuals.
I'll be curious is there is history with the Greene family with whiskey? Is that part of the interest?
Not really historically speaking. I mean, my dad, drank bourbon when I was a kid, and he, it's okay. I'll tell a story about my dad and drinking bourbon. He, he always had a bottle of bourbon in the liquor cabinet, and my brother's 10 years older than I am, and so when my brother was in his teenage years, he would take sips of whiskey out of our dad's bourbon
little by little,
and then like kind of mark it, and then like add a little bit of water to bring it back up to the point, so that and then when I came around in my teenage years, I did the exact same thing. I didn't know that my brother was doing that, but I used to do the same thing. I would steal a little bit of bourbon and then top it up with water. So the joke that we say to our dad is like, you haven't drank a full strength bourbon in your life, because we've just been watering it down, for decades.
That's very true. Does this bourbon look right to you, boys?
Yeah.
That is a clear vintage right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good story, especially for poor old dad. Just trying to come home at the end of the day, and he's getting this is off-color water.
So much of this.
Man, it goes down smooth.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we're coming to the end of the podcast, and so I don't want to forget. I always like to ask people, what is inspiring them these days? Like, what is something out there artistically or otherwise that's really lighting your fire these days?
I'm a big fan of movies and film, and I love the horror genre. So Ari Aster movies. I don't know if you've seen any of his movies, like Hereditary, Midsommar.
Okay, yes, yeah, those.
Beau's Afraid.
Yeah, are they all part of that studio? What are they?
A24.
A24, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I find the work that they're doing is pretty incredible. It's it doesn't feel like big Hollywood, which I dig.
Yeah, it seems. Yeah, I mean, I think that's more and more people I talk to are when it comes to movies, are so much more engaged with the small productions that are more based on story and character and practical effects, even, and because it seems like we're just being drowned in CGI and big budget slop, right? So it's when those small movies come out, it almost coming back to form, right? It's like, this is why movies were made in the first place.
Yeah, and I think so. To use that as it's an analogy that I use in music a lot, and with writing, it's like when you try to please everybody, you sort of end up pleasing nobody, because the people that really, really dig what you do, or the essence of you, it's too watered down for them. And then the people who are lukewarm to you or kind of indifferent, they don't care anyway. So I find that some of the big blockbuster movies kind of suffer from that a little bit. It's just trying to make it so palatable across so many different demographics.
It's like focus group art, which is saying in this demographic they like this, so we'll put a dog in this scene and we'll make, and it's
we better please those group of people. We better, and so if you just find yourself being a slave to trying to please everybody, what you get in the end is just it's just a watered down version. It's like so much bourbon in my dad's bottle over years.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, and that's I think a perfect place to end. It's don't water down your bourbon, folks. Not unless you want to. That's the
drink it how you like it.
Yeah, that's the idea. Drink it how you like it. Yeah. So again, I really do thank you for coming on the show, Scott. It's been it's good catching up, but it's also, I think, something that I think a lot of people will be interested in hearing your perspective.
Oh, yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I hope it's been good for you. Yeah.
So again, thanks for coming on the podcast. Thanks for everyone that's listening out there. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, because it does mean something. Even just the thumbs up can go a long way. But other than that, this has been an edition of the Pillars of Creation. So get out there, make something new, and we'll see you next time.
Cheers.